Hi, Pixel Pedant here, and today I'm reviewing Picnic Paranoia for TI-99 4A. This is a single-screen overhead action game originally developed by Synapse Software for Atari computers, but subsequently ported to Apple II and TI-99 4A as well. Incidentally, Picnic Paranoia isn't the only Synapse game which made an appearance on TI-99 4A via Atari Soft following an Atari 8-bit release. Shamus and Protector 2 also fall into this category. Synapse were pretty prolific in the Atari sphere at just the right moment to make a splash in the TI world as well, vicariously via Atari Soft. In my unapologetically biased opinion, I think we got the best looking version of Picnic Paranoia on TI-99 4A for whatever that's worth. As for the game concept, the idea is you are George, and George is having a picnic when ants try to steal all of his food. Your job is to keep the insects from biting you, and more importantly, from stealing your food for as long as you can. As soon as all the food disappears or a round ends with no food on the table, the game's over. So let's see how that game plays. First off, I'll say not exactly an appealing title theme, but it does convey the gameplay concept. Alright, we get it. We're getting harassed by bugs. As the game starts, ants are beginning to invade the picnic space, and we've got to kill as many of them as we can. One of the game's main challenges becomes immediately apparent, which is you can't reach most of the ants most of the time. You can only reach 2 of the quadrants of any given tile adjacent to you. A red jumping spider has now taken up residence in the left side of the map and is laying down webs. He's not a threat to me, but he's a threat to my ability to reach the ants and to reach my food. The black ants, incidentally, will never actually attack you. They're only a threat to your food, not to George himself. Wasps will periodically enter the field of play. They'll go straight for George and try to sting him. But they know you have a swatter, so they'll often stay just outside of your range. You've got to hope they get close enough to get swatted, but don't manage to sting you while they do. If there are no ants in the way, it's possible to slide food back onto the table, just like George did there with the apple, by swatting the tray and then pushing it towards the table itself. This becomes more necessary in later rounds, since you need at least one food item still on the table itself to survive a round. At the end of the round, as long as something's still on the table, everything on the screen that hasn't disappeared gets counted up, scored up, and put back on the table for the next round. So you can see no food items at all were lost in that round. The red patches at the corners of the screen, incidentally, give you the opportunity to cross over to the opposite side of the screen, either vertically or horizontally. Potentially a handy way to get away from a wasp if you need to. So here's an example of a wasp at its most annoying, where it stays just outside your range for all too long. Sometimes there's not much you can do. A comment on control in the game, incidentally. All attacks in the game are 8-directional, so the fire button alone does nothing. You have to pick a direction in order to attack. At a certain point, you just have to wait until the ants get a food item completely off the table, since you aren't able to reach them while they're still on the table, or only have given you one quadrant of a tile in which to reach them. Another food item on the ground with no ants around, a prime opportunity to drag it back towards the table. One food item lost that round. Not bad. Movement can feel a little kludgy at times, and that's due to the way that the joystick controls are doing double duty, both directing the direction of your attack and the direction of your character's movement. By doing two things at once, they do both a little worse than they otherwise would. In a way, this game does mean every game to be a suffer game. Some games are designed in such a way that you always feel like you're winning a bit. You always feel like you're doing something a bit cool. This is the opposite kind of game. It's a game that makes you want to feel like you're suffering constantly from the get-go every single time. It's never a win, it's minimizing a loss. Was that a sensible design decision? I'm not sure. It was an interesting one. And the wasp stung George, so that means he has to take a timeout while his face is red with embarrassment, according to the manuals for these games. I'm not sure why wasp stings make you red with embarrassment rather than, well, immune responses. But yeah, he's embarrassed about having been stung by the wasp. Manual says so, and the manual can't be wrong. Well, a round barely survived, but with two pieces of food just tipping off the table as it ends. And two pieces of food are missing as the round begins. And here's where it all starts to get to be just a little too much. The ants are gonna win. In the end, the ants always win. And there goes the picnic pie. Alas, poor picnic pie, I knew it, Horatio. A pie of infinite zest and most excellent fancy. I hath borne it on my picnic blanket 1,000 times. How abhorred in my imagination it is. My gorge rises at it. Behold the victory of insect kind over man. I, for one, welcome our insect overlords. And that is Picnic Paranoia for TI-99 4A. Worth a play? I'd say, but not one of my favorites.